Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. If you're watching us live, welcome, welcome. Very glad to have you all join us here. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Karen, there might be a little bit of feedback. So do you want to very glad to have you all join us here. Maybe you want to mute that particular screen. Karen, there might be a little bit of feedback. So do you want Oh, the loveliness of technology. So maybe you want to mute. I'll give you, Karen, a chance to just mute that. Your speaker. Oh, the loveliness of technology. So I'll give you, Karen, a chance. And so, okay, great. Well, why don't we go ahead and continue on? And so what we will do is introduce you all to the Long Beach Gray Panthers, Karen Reside. And before we do that, let me just say that the nonprofit partnership would love to welcome you to our segment of Our Stories, Our Time. And in this series, what we're doing is that we are interviewing nonprofit leaders to understand how organizations are navigating through the challenges of these current times. And before I introduce you to our guest, the president of Long Beach Gray Panthers, the nonprofit partnership wishes to thank the Port of Long Beach for their generous support of this interview series. So again, if you are tuning in and you're watching us live right now on Facebook, please feel free to engage with us. There's a comment box in there if you want to ask our guest any questions or say hello, then please, we invite you to do that. And with that, let me introduce Karen Reside, president of the Long Beach Gray Panthers. Karen, we are so thrilled to have you here. Welcome.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, Karen, Long Beach Gray Panthers is an organization that's been around in Long Beach for a while. And I think a lot of folks will be really curious to learn more about your history and how you got started. So can you share a little bit more about what that history is?
Yeah, oh, yes. The Gray Panthers are actually a national organization. And at one point in time, they had over 9,000 members. They were started by a woman named Maggie Kuhn in about 1974. And there used to be a mandatory retirement requirement for workers. And Maggie had been working for the Presbyterian Church in their social services side. And she and some of her other social worker friends were forced to retire. And they felt like they still had a lot of work to do in organizing and assisting older people. So she didn't really want to retire, and neither did her friends. So they started an organization, and their first task was to overturn the mandatory retirement laws, which they were successful at doing. And they were started about 1972, sorry. And the Long Beach chapter was started about 1974 by members of another local nonprofit group, the Long Beach Area Peace Network. Some of their members decided that there needed to be a Long Beach Gray Panther chapter. So we began then. In 2 years, we'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary. And the Gray Panthers had a history of some of the longest protests. They used to be part of the group that protested at the Chase Bank location in Belmont Shore, all during the Vietnam War. And the Gray Panthers were one of the first groups to work with youth on college campuses to protest the war. That was one of the things that Maggie advocated for. Our motto is Age and Youth in Action. We work closely with college students. We have 46 interns this semester and 30 service learning students from Cal State Long Beach. And then the other piece that's been part of us ever since our founding was advocating for Medicare for all. And we were founded as an education and advocacy group and to advocate for older adults. At the time the Gray Panthers began in Long Beach, we were the only group that was doing anything to advocate for older adults. We did lots of protesting. I have some really interesting pictures from long
From the
ago.
archives, images from the archives.
During the housing crisis, they did a sit-in in a house that they were trying to evict a senior from. So they made it so that the bank could never take possession and the woman got to keep her house. So we have a long history of being protective of seniors, and we continue with that mission through this day. We work in collaboration with over 72 other organizations in Long Beach and LA County. So we stretched our wings a little bit.
Yeah.
So we are active in some issues across LA County also. We work closely with the legislators on any legislation that pertains to older adults. Our main focus is still on Medicare for all. We were very active in AB 1400, which another version of it will come forward probably next year, because we all know that our health system does not work. Seniors are the heaviest consumer of the health care system.
Yeah.
And we have to have a system that works for everybody. Seniors shouldn't have to make a choice between paying for food or their medication. So we're still working heavily on that. We are working on Social Security preservation. There's the Social Security Act of 2100. And that would repair some of the kind of bugs in the Social Security system. Congress has to make adjustments periodically, and it's time they make some permanent adjustments. So Social Security will be around for the students that we have volunteering with us now. And then Medicare, that's another, we want Medicare expansion is how we want. Medicare is an excellent system. It works very efficiently, as does Social Security. So these are two areas where the government's been very successful in implementing programs that keep primarily women out of poverty. Wow. 60% of all Social Security recipients are women. And I know I'm one of those. I live on my Social Security. Having a pension is increasingly rare. So only about 20%, 28% of companies offer pensions anymore. People are expected to save money on their own. And if you're a single mother, or you have to provide caregiving for a family member and you're not able to work, that really reduces your chance to build up your Social Security account.
Right. And this is, you know, I think what you're describing though is one of those, well, not one, but a whole cluster of issues that really demonstrate how different current times are and standard of living and I think access to resources to be able to sustain lifestyles that were not there many years ago. And to your point though, the advocacy you're doing today, you want to make sure that there's an impact for the future generation as well. And those generations that are alongside you working. So before we dive and take a deeper dive into a lot of the issues that Long Beach Gray Panthers is your organization is working on, because there's a variety of those issues, not just these issues that one can argue are a little bit more national in scope, but there's a lot of local issues that you are collaborating with. But one of the things that is so interesting, and it's I think important for people who don't know much about your organization to learn about you, is that you do just about everything that you do in partnership, in collaboration with others, networks, and being able to truly collaborate and work together on different issues and projects. It's very important to you. Can you talk to us a little bit
Yes.
more about why that is, and where do you currently stand on that right now?
Well, we're a grassroots organization. We don't have any paid staff. So every dollar that we receive in donations or grants goes directly to services for seniors. I can give an example. During the winter, we have an office at the Long Beach Senior Center on 4th Street. And they distribute food that's donated by food finders on Mondays and Fridays. And seniors come to pick up food and they have to wait outside, and it was cold. So we noticed that they didn't have warm coats. So we conducted a campaign, and we partnered with the National Jewish Women's Council, and they conducted a coat drive, and we got some donations from Chase Bank, and we were able to distribute over 400 warm coats to seniors that had previously just had sweatshirts or sweaters. And so in the time of COVID, seniors are under greater stress. We're primarily 73% of people that have died of COVID are seniors. We've been hardest hit by the pandemic. So keeping seniors safe and healthy is so critical. So we don't consume emergency room resources, and that we're able to go about our daily living healthily.
And Karen, you bring up a great issue, and it's one topic. It's one that we try to explore a little bit more in these our stories, our time conversations, and that is how the pandemic has really elevated and really highlighted the needs of a lot of many vulnerable populations, and during these times seniors are particularly hit. And before I have you describe a little bit more what that looks like, could you also share with us, just so that is people looking at this interview are understanding just the impact of the work that you do, what you stand for? What are some of those moments in the last several years that Long Beach Gray Panthers is particularly proud of, that you've said, wow, we really made an impact on that, and we really helped to move the needle on that? Can you share with us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Well, one was an event that I went to this morning. There was a groundbreaking on a 68 unit senior affordable housing building that's being built by Mercy Housing. And we helped write letters of support to the city council and to the planning commission. We testified. We do this for any senior building because, there's the not in my backyard element, that they don't want affordable housing built in their neighborhood. And I'm one of those low income seniors, and I'm not a bad neighbor. I'm a pretty good one. And we want more senior housing, and we need senior housing. There's not enough for the seniors. Seniors are about 23% of our population in Long Beach. There's about 23 to 26,000 of us. And a lot of them are homeowners, but a lot of them are not. If you're living on Social Security, like I am, your residential choices are limited. I'm able to live in Long Beach because I have subsidized Section 8 project-based housing. And so that makes it so that I can live comfortably on my Social Security. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to stay in Long Beach if I didn't have that support.
Right.
And I think I'm a pretty good member of the community. I try to gain resources for seniors, the coats. The other thing that we've done that's been really game changer during the pandemic was we did a campaign to get grocery carts. So we were able to get some grants and get $50 grocery cards
Yeah. And
for over 400 seniors.
wow.
And it made a big difference in their ability. And seniors are technically still under stay-at-home orders at the state and county level. So a lot of
Tell us
seniors,
more
I
about
have
that, because I think a lot of us don't realize that that's
no
the case.
seniors that are at higher risk because we are being most impacted by COVID and its variants. So we still are under stay-at-home orders. And I literally have people in my building that have not been out of their apartments for almost 3 years now.
Wow. So as of today, March 9th, 2022, seniors are still under these orders, you say?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you and I were talking about this just a little bit earlier ago. This is an order that's in effect through the state of California. Is that right?
Yes. And we're still included in the recommendation is for seniors to wear masks. I have no intention of giving my mask up for at least another year.
Yeah. So Karen, and this is a great segue, by the way, to learn a little bit more about your activities, but really importantly too, your advocacy during this time of pandemic. And so you were just describing right now that the Panthers mobilized quickly. I mean, you were able to get
Yes.
some resources for seniors. What are some of the other ways in which you realized rather quickly that you did have to mobilize, whether it's the Panthers themselves or resources that you're connected to, networks, to really address what you were starting to see when the pandemic broke out?
Yes. Well, because we have so many partners and we go to lots of meetings, all of us, we have a 6-member board of directors, and we all go to lots of meetings. So we're very connected. So we are often at the forefront. One of the issues that we're identifying right now that we're beginning to tackle is students at the university. As I said, we have 46 interns, and we always ask how many of the interns are providing care, because most of them are health education majors, to someone in their family. And it had been 3 students. This semester, it was almost every single one of them. So if we don't have healthier systems for our older adults so that they can age in place successfully and with dignity, and we have a whole generation that's going to be impacted. And I have one student that he's caring for his father and his sister with Down syndrome, and he's trying to go to school and he's working full time. That's a horrible burden for a young person to have. So this is part of our Age and Youth in Action. So we're collecting their stories, and we're trying to push the university to have a discussion about this issue and how we can support these young people.
Yeah.
And because there is a shortage of caregivers, and for many reasons, because caregiving is so expensive and the need is going to grow so tremendously in the next decade. More and more families are going to have to rely on family members to provide that care. And then you have the situation where they don't get Social Security credits. So we're working for legislation that SB 2100 would include credits for people doing family caregiving.
Okay. So a lot of this, what you are not just seeing during these times, but again, it connects back to the way that you do what you do, which is, not just doing things in networks and part of a kind of collective impact capacity, but it's how you tie it back to legislative changes. And you were alluding to some of this earlier as well. And see, I think that is such an interesting story, though, that you're sharing with us today, in that through the work that you're doing, you're also seeing this impact on young people who are collaborating with you. But it's also, I think, when you look at the impact across the board, what is happening to young people nowadays. And thank you so much for just bringing that voice into all of this, and that lens, that we are talking about a generation years down the road who will eventually age in our city.
Yes.
And so if we're not paying attention to these things now, what are we building ourselves up for, right? And it seems like the pandemic has just been an opportunity to really make sure that we're paying attention to that.
Yes. And we want seniors to be appreciated
Mhm.
for the wealth and the knowledge that they bring from their past histories. One of the things the students have to do is they have to interview an older person, and they have to find out how they came to be in the United States and what that has meant to living their lives, and some emotional stories, people that have fled Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge. They had never told their stories to their children. They heard their parents' stories for the first time, and appreciating the wealth of experiences that people bring to our community, and that how those experiences can change the way we approach topics. We do a lot of work in housing because that's the biggest need in our community right now. And we're the students, we made the students watch the city council meeting where they talked about the housing element and what the city's policy is going to be in building housing for the next 8 years. We had a representative from Chase Bank come in and talk to them because one of their big concerns, are they going to be able to afford to buy a house? And he came and talked to them, and on Sunday, we meet with them on Sunday evenings. And the students, then the next day, I found out 3 of them that attended that, they're thinking of buying a house. They have support from their families to be able to do that. And they're looking at starting their lives and getting married, because the students are going to have to solve a lot of the problems that have not been dealt with, like the caregiving situation, like the healthcare situation, housing. They're going to be the ones that are going to have to end up solving the problems. And we want them, and we want everybody to understand that by talking about their feelings and opinions, they can influence the policy. And we get much better policy that way. We have open, honest discussions as a community, and we involve everyone in the discussion. It's a little more challenging sometimes, but it's so important.
And this is wow, and this is actually a good moment for us to just pause a little bit and remind or let everyone who's watching know how they can connect with Long Beach Gray Panthers, because everything that you've shared in the last 20 or so minutes we've been on the call is all about the really important work that you're doing to not just educate, bring about awareness, spotlight, but there's a lot of activities that are happening. And I'm sure there are people watching this interview thinking, wow, I care about those issues too. How can I get involved? So Karen, share with us that contact info.
People can go to our website, www.longbeachgray, Panthers.org. You can go to our website. You can sign up to get our newsletter. We do a monthly newsletter.
Nice.
On the hot issues for seniors. We have a meeting once a month on the first Saturday of the month from 10:30 to noon. And we will start having our meetings in person on April 2nd, I think it is, the first Saturday in April. In room 202 at the Senior Center at 1150 East 4th Street. And we also have an office on the 2nd floor of the Senior Center. And we're available. You can stop by the office Monday through Friday between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Our office is open. and you can call us. Our office phone is 562-336-1595.
That number again is 562.
336-1595.
1595. Thank you for that. Wow, we get an address. I don't think we get addresses very often. But thank you for sharing that. Now you also have a website, longbeachgraypanthers.org.
Yes.
And that website has a lot of info. It has your number on there. It's laid out in such a way that anyone visiting your site can get to see what are those issues you're working on. And a lot of this, to your example earlier, Karen, it's not just what you're trying to highlight, the advocacy that you're trying to do, but you actually have some programming around some of these. So talk to us a little bit now as we're getting into the last 5 or 7 minutes or so of our call, but give us an idea of what are you going to be focused on from now through the end of the year? What are those things that you're working on and you're paying some particular attention to?
Well, we're one of the places that you can go to register to vote. We do voter registration. We're very active around election times. We believe being active, people get better representatives that understand their issues better. So we're going to be hosting our annual Senior Fest on May 7th between 10 and 2 at the Senior Center. This will be our 5th one. It's a resource fair for senior issues. And we have key featured speakers around relevant topics to seniors. And we have panel tabling by organizations that serve seniors. So we will have that in person this year. I will ask people to wear masks, but we will be in person. So, and we feed you breakfast.
That's always lunch. A good draw. Oh, that's even better. So that's happening in May, right, Karen? What's that date again?
May 7th. And it's kind of a kickoff to Older Americans Month.
Okay.
And then we're working on putting together a housing forum to kind of end Older Americans Month.
Okay.
And because there's so much housing construction going on, we want to help people understand how they can get access to affordable housing and provide connections for them.
Wonderful. So housing is still one of those, it's still that topic, that issue that is important to make sure that you're all keeping a very close eye on. And by extension too, I mean, everyone else who's connected to you and volunteering with you. Speaking of which, are there any upcoming volunteer opportunities? Do you usually engage volunteers for the event that's coming up or?
Yes, we'll need lots of volunteers for the Senior Fest. And we also help with the food distribution at the Senior Center. Okay. So we're always looking for volunteers. That's Monday on Fridays from 10 to 12. And the food finders drops off food and it has to be packaged and handed out to seniors. So it's a good way to spend 2 hours, and it helps with socialization with the seniors, because that's been one of the heavy impacts with the COVID pandemic. Seniors, a lot of seniors are suffering from social isolation and depression. The depression rates are through the roof. So if you have a senior neighbor, reach out to them. I mean, so impressed with the students. They've been taking their relatives, their neighbors to get their booster shots, as well as their COVID vaccinations. And sometimes they don't have access to transportation. It makes it difficult for them to get their shots or the medical care that they might need to keep them safe and well.
So Karen, thank you. You shared your number earlier. You shared your address. We have the website here. Email. Are you good about connecting over email for those folks who want to have a deeper conversation with you and won't call, but they might email. Can you share that with us?
Yes. Email is Long Beach Gray, Gray,
Mhm.
Panthers @gmail.com. And we will return any emails within 24 hours. We constantly monitor our email address. And then we're also at lots of community events. We table a lot. And we're always at the senior center. So
Okay, good. Well, that's always good to know. And before we wrap up our conversation, and thank you so much, Karen, it's been such a pleasure to have you here and to get to know more about not just who you are, but really the work that Long Beach Gray Panthers is doing. Tell us more as final thoughts here about what Long Beach Gray Panthers really hopes to see as we continue on in the next year or so with the different iterations of either stay-at-home orders or how we kind of come back and live in this reality, because COVID hasn't gone anywhere, it's still around. So what are the hopes that Long Beach Gray Panthers has for the community?
well, we want to see a livable community for all older adults that embraces the wealth of wisdom and wealth itself, because most of the wealth in the United States is owned by seniors, and truly have them embedded in the fabric of the community, and so that every senior can have the resources that they need to age in the place that they choose to live in with dignity and respect, and with the supports that they need to have a quality lifestyle. And that's what we're going to work towards going forward.
Absolutely. And I think we all can appreciate how you are definitely working towards that and all of what we got to know about that you do today. So thank you again, Karen, and thank you to the rest of your colleagues over at Long Beach Gray Panthers. Thanks again for your time, and everyone else, please connect with Long Beach Gray Panthers. Support this great organization and the work they're doing. See you next time.
Bye.